Somebody stayed. All right. Okay, so I am sorry about that. My internet died. That was excellent. I thought it was Zoom having a problem, and it turned out it was the internet. And I was a little terrified to start the class again while the original recording was processing, because I didn't want to lose it. So I had to wait while I reset my internet. Okay. So, well, that cut out about 10 or 12 minutes of our time, but let's just pick up where we left off. This will be put in 2 videos. All right, blah, blah, blah. So we talked about how a brokerage account would be really good for you to put money in, even though it's not going to get you a tax benefit, because if you just have extra money to put away after you max out your IRA, maybe after you max out your 401k, boom, extra retirement money. Also, you don't have to wait until your retirement age to pull out from a brokerage. You have to wait or you're going to hit a penalty with your 401k. You have to wait or you're going to get penalties with your IRAs. Again, I do mention with the Roth IRA, you're actually able to pull out deposit money, but not growth. So what that means is, let's say you put in $2,000 and now it's worth $10,000. So you put in 2 and you've got 8 in interest. At any point of any time, you can take that $2,000 back out if you wanted to, which is not a suggestion I normally have, because then you're removing money to grow. But you could, under emergencies, down payments on a home, medical stuff, whatever. But you can't pull out the interest. You couldn't touch any of that $8,000 until you're 59 and a half. And that number is likely to change when we hit retirement age. If I'm talking to 20 and 30-year-olds and teenagers, if I'm talking to 50, 60-year-olds, you know, that's your number. 60-year-olds, obviously it's your number. So a brokerage account, maybe you just think you can do a good job investing over 10 years and you want to pull that money out and buy a boat with it or something. You've got your retirement plan already set up. You know you're happy with it. Your brokerage account could be for fun investments or extra retirement money or something else. You could use that to help your kids pay for something later. I don't know. Now, you might say you could use it to help pay for your kids' school, but there are accounts that are tax sheltered with that. So I would put it in that instead. So where do you get these IRAs? Where do you get these bonds, these brokerage accounts? Again, the 401k is through your employer, but the others, that's when you go to your Vanguards, your Fidelities, your Acorns, your Webull, all of those websites I mentioned before. And the cool thing is, all these companies offer hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of mutual funds. And you can have the same mutual fund labeled as an IRA, as a brokerage, as a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. You could have the same investment under 3 or 4 different types of accounts. For instance, Fidelity has FSKAX. So FSKAX, this is Fidelity. This is the ticker for the total stock market. So if you bought 1 share of FSKAX, if you had a Fidelity account, then you are buying every stock in America, essentially. And again, asterisk, because I think some penny stocks aren't put into this. But I mean, everything from tech sector, everything from the medical sector, everything from the industrial sector, travel sector, every single stock you can imagine is in there. Oh, sorry, buddy. My dog just knocked over something. So again, 1 share of that means you've got a small portion of every stock in existence. But then they have something like FXAIX, which again is Fidelity. The F is for Fidelity. That is their version of the S&P 500. So you'd only be buying into 500 companies. It's called S&P 500 for a reason. Then they have tech sectors. So like they have FSPTX. This is a tech fund that typically has higher expected growth, at least the past 10 years. I can't say 10 years from now the tech sector is going to be growing as well. Then you have your energy sector, which I don't know any besides Gush, which is, that's just oil, and I don't really want to point that one out. That's more like a stock than a mutual fund. These are mutual funds. These are bundles of companies. So the total stock market, there's literally thousands of companies inside of that one. The S&P 500, there's exactly 500 companies inside of that one. This tech fund, I want to say, is in the ballpark of 200, but don't quote me on that. So again, mutual funds are when you buy a bunch of companies, so that way if some are doing great and some aren't doing great, hopefully the ones that are doing great are typically doing greater to balance out the ones that aren't. Whereas if you just invest in 5 or 10 hand-picked companies, they could all go under. You don't know. They could all do amazing. They could all go under. You don't know. Mutual funds, they're going to rotate companies in and out of this if they're not doing great. If a company is not doing great in the S&P 500, eventually it gets booted. If a company in this tech sector is not doing great, eventually it gets booted and they put another one in there. So these are where you're going to get your 7% expected returns probably. This one, if tech continued to grow as well as it has, this is like 15% probably, maybe even 18% when you consider fees and stuff like that. You don't just gain money based on interest. We've mentioned this in the past. You get dividends, which is the company actually being profitable and sharing its profit with shareholders. So they'll say, okay, because we made a ton of profit this year, we're going to give all of our shareholders maybe $1 on a share, 1% on a share, something like that. And we even did some math involving this way back at the beginning of the semester, way back, all 8 weeks ago. But not all companies pay dividends. Specifically, Amazon, I know, does not pay dividends, even though they're one of the biggest companies out there. But that's partly because they weren't actually profitable for a very long time. And they've kind of used taxes to that, and we're not going to get into those details. Back to the different types of accounts you can have. A college saving plan. So like I said, if you want to put money away for your kids, put that into a 529. There are other types of accounts out there. Like I said, the 457, the 401, 403. Don't worry about all the different numbers and their implications. They're just all for tax savings for one thing or another. Figure out what they mean when you actually have to go to use them. But one of the bigger things, that's funny. I just got a text message from a teacher that their Zoom crashed, which is weird because I don't think it was Zoom. I think it was my internet because I tried using my phone and it seemed like my wireless was down. Either way, sorry. I know I'm easily distracted. Squirrel. But the biggest thing I want you to take away from this whole course, aside from investing properly, is this right here. As said famously by someone in the 90s, mo money, mo problems, but in a more technical sense, avoid lifestyle creep. Avoid lifestyle creep. What is lifestyle creep? It means when you're in college and you're living on scraps, you're used to it. And then when you get your $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year job immediately after, you go, oh man, I've got so much more money than I'm used to. I can buy shinier, fancier things. I can have better meals. I can do this and do that and go on trips and everything. And you should slide your expenses some, but not like 90% of Americans do. 90% of Americans go from making $10,000 a year to $40,000 a year, but they go from spending their money like they live off of $10,000 a year to $50,000 or $60,000 a year. They don't compensate properly. They don't budget. They don't consider all these things. So that's what lifestyle creep is, where you make a bigger sum of money all of a sudden, and then you just let your expenses balloon past that. And it doesn't have to be all at once. Creep generally means slow. So you might let this slowly creep up on you over the years. Now, as long as your income is increasing at a rate more than your expenses, that's fine. But again, 90% of Americans have this lifestyle creep issue, to where their expense rate grows quicker than their income rate. All right, shoot, because of losing all that time, I don't know that we're gonna have the time to be able to go into some of these problems. Some we've done, some we haven't. This one I've already left the numbers up there. So let's do this one. Bob wants to retire with $1 million. We've done annuity calculations with the formulas. with these two. We did one of these two. I think we did this one. But we have not practiced with this formula at least once. So I want to at least show you a practice with this one. Spoilers as to what we need. So, example, Bob wants to retire with $1 million. This is not what he's putting away every month. This is not a payment. This is not a one-time deposit. It's what he wants to retire with. That's his future value. That's his A. He can invest monthly into an IRA annuity. So I throw the word in there, annuity, just so you even further understand that it's a monthly or whatever process, quarterly, however frequently. And we expect the annual return, the annual interest rate return to be 9%. Again, we can't guarantee it. That's what we're expecting. And we compound at the same rate we're depositing. Bob's 25 and is going to retire at 65. How much should he invest each month? And then I say how much was free money. So we won $1 million. We know we got 40 years, so 25 to 65, so that's 40 years, and we got a 9% interest rate. And we're putting the money and getting interest monthly, so that's 12. So I didn't do that up here, did I? Correct. All right, we did the house problem with the $200,000 home. We did the savings and all that. Good. Just making sure. I'm all over the place right now with all these nonsense things happening. So the formula we need is this one right here, because we don't know the monthly payment or quarterly payment or semi-annual payment, whatever it is. So we have our variables defined. So we go PMT equals 1 million times the R over N, which is 0.09 over 12, all over. See, I'm using this formula right here. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. This formula right here, payment equals, because we know the future value, and then divided by bracket parentheses, 1 plus the 0.09 over 12. You don't have to memorize these formulas, you just got to know how to use them. Raised to the NT, which is N is 12 times T was 40, and then a minus 1. Now remember, the 12 times the 40 you should pre-multiply. 12 times 4 is 48, so that's 480. So that's what the exponent is that you'll see me type in the calculator in just a few minutes, just a few seconds really. All right, 1 million, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 0.09 divided by 12. Close the parentheses, divided by bracket parentheses, 1 plus 0.09 divided by 12, close the parentheses, raise it to the 480 power, then minus 1. Now remember, if you have an actual exponent looking thing in your calculator, make sure you hit right before you type the minus 1. Close your bracket, boom, $213.61. That's your monthly deposit. If you got 40 years at a 9%, which is pretty solid, $213 a month. That's not the end of the world. $213, what were the cents? 61 cents. That's our monthly payment. Now I also asked how much of this was free money. Also asked how much did Bob invest? Well, the amount invested is the payment times the number of payments. It's $213.61 times 480. We're going to put this $213.61 away 480 times. So 213.61 times 480. And we get $102,532.80. 102,532 and 80 cents. We know we end up with $1 million, so the interest should be the future value minus the amount invested. We're not just subtracting $213 because we didn't just put this away once, we put it away 480 times. So it's the 1 million minus the 102,532.8. So I'm just going to go 1 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus, I don't actually have to type the number, I can hit second answer. And we get 467 and 20 cents. So we put in 100,000 of our own money. We got $900,000 for free. If we were doing this in a Roth IRA, I didn't say which kind it was. That means we paid taxes on 100 grand and we're getting 900 grand tax free. Yes, please give me 900 grand tax free. So this last problem, I just want to point out, Bob can invest $500 monthly into a Roth IRA, so he's going to max out his Roth IRA contribution. He's 35 and will retire at 65, so getting a late start. 30 years now to invest. We're putting the money away monthly. It's compounding monthly. Again, in reality, it compounds daily, but nobody's putting their money in daily, so we can't use that formula. And also, Bob's only expecting a 6% return. He's being a little more realistic, I suppose. Maybe he gets better than 6%, but that's what he's doing for his calculation. How much do we actually get? So the payment's 500, the time's 30 years, it's a monthly, and our rate is 6%. So in the formula sheet, not that one, I clicked the wrong thing. Formula sheet, we're gonna go with this one. Now we wanna know what is the value of the annuity in the future. So it's A equals payment, blah, 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 blah. Just cookie cutter, put everything in the right spot. So A equals the payment, why is that one black and then it turned blue? What the heck? I have never seen that. So 500 is our payment. Again, we're using this one, bracket parentheses, 1 plus the 0.06 over 12 raised to the 12 times 30, and a minus 1, close the bracket, all over parentheses, 0.06 over 12. Again, just one piece at a time. Play this slower if you have to. When you crunch that out in your calculator and the 12 times 30 is 360, you end up getting $500,000 and some change. I'll show the calculation. Okay, so 500. Bracket parentheses, 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12. Close it. Raise it to the 360, that's the 12 times the 30. Then the minus 1, hitting right if you have to, knowing your calculator. Close the bracket. Divided by parentheses, 0.06 divided by 12. Close the parentheses. There's that 502,000 number we mentioned. And then your interest would be the difference of the future value and your $500 360 times, which $500 360 times is 180 grand. And if you subtract those, you get 322 grand and some change. So in this scenario, you end up Bob ends up putting 180 grand away instead of 100 grand. And he also gets a lot less interest. He only gets $300,000 worth of interest for free. Now, what would you rather pay the taxes on, 180 grand or 300 grand? Probably the 180 grand. But it's honestly a little bit shadier there without getting into all the super crazy details. But again, you can use these formulas for these calculations. And like I said, the website, that annuity calculator, these numbers won't match. They will be a little off because of the way they compound interest versus the way these formulas do. They handle it in a more complex manner that we're not adjusted for. But they're there. All right, we did the house problem. We basically did a credit card debt problem. So even though I'm not going to do this one, we did one earlier in Excel where we had the $2,000 balance. We've made an interest column, a payment column. We added the interest, subtracted the payment, and then just went on. The only crazy formula in here was taking the balance and multiplying it by the periodic rate, which is the annual rate divided by 12 because we're paying monthly. Okay, so we're going to call it there. Again, sorry for the splitting up of this. I'm glad one of my two students stayed. The rest of you, hopefully you'll just see that it's split into two parts. I'll send an email out about that as well, but it's not going to happen until 1:30. Besides that, it has been a pleasure. It has been an honor. Thank you for dealing with these crazy times, these extenuating circumstances. I hope that I have been fair in how I've kind of handled things. I think I've been fair. I've been very lenient. We had less Excel assignments than we should have. I was pretty lenient with grading the project, and like I said, I need to go back, and some of you may get a couple more points on that. I have to go check. I know at least one student is going to get points back, and I know at least one student is not. So that's what I have in my brain right now. Check out your final exam review, as well as the midterm review, as well as the midterm itself. The midterm itself would be great because some of the questions are going to come from the midterm review, some are going to come from the midterm because those questions were on the midterm review. Don't forget your formula sheet. Don't forget that little conversion sheet as well. You might need it with a couple of conversions from the midterm. There's only 2 up there. Just write them down again if you have to. So yeah, please, please, please continue working hard. For these last couple of days, we're done by midnight, Thursday, Friday, between Thursday and Friday, 11:59 p.m. You have to have that final exam submitted. No ifs, no ands, no buts. So please do your best. Good luck in your futures. I hope you're able to retain some of this stuff. The things that help you to retain are, how can you calculate your grade in a class so you don't have to ask your teacher? How can you know what the price of something is going to be at the store? Using proportional arguments to predict something in the future about something if you know it's a linear growth. Understanding that mathematical models, as you change timescales, can vary, especially when you're talking about people. A lot of things short term you can approximate as linear or proportional, but when you go long term, you can't. And last but most certainly not least, the financial side of things that no one ever teaches you in middle or high school, how to use credit cards appropriately. I think I've kind of given that information, how to go about using your retirement accounts. I didn't show you how to create one. Internet's there for you to, how do I set up a Fidelity account? How do I transfer money from my bank account to Fidelity? How do I actually buy the mutual funds? Go and look at those things on your own on the internet. Otherwise, it gets a little bit too much of me being a financial advisor, which I don't want to tread down that path. We can always have private conversations once you're no longer a student, and I can show you these the setups for things like that. And I'm always happy to. I always love helping people get their finances straight because I hate debt. I don't want to see people with debt. I want to see people thrive and succeed in any way they can. So please have a good rest of your summer. Please study strong. Please finish strong. Grades will be in SIS Friday morning. Whether they actually show up Friday afternoon or Monday morning, that depends on how the system is. But you can't email me and ask you for your final grade. You have to just wait to see it in SIS. All right. Take care, everyone. It's been an honor. Cheers.